In the end of the world, Ruqing, who was fighting with zombies with a machine gun, miraculously crossed over in the blink of an eye. She, as a special forces soldier from the end of the 31st century, was skilled in both literature and martial arts, as well as medical skills. She once traveled through the body of a legitimate daughter of a prime minister who had the same name, surname, and appearance as herself. She transformed into a wicked woman, and ended up marrying into a disabled queen of the Wei king like a dog's blood. She also inexplicably gained a baby son. He, the highly influential king of Wei and the renowned god of war of the Eastern Yuan dynasty, had immense power and a handsome appearance. However, he was known as the great demon who committed all kinds of evil, and the intimidating laughing king of hell. He loved her to the bone, but she mistakenly thought it was just a carefully planned conspiracy from beginning to end. He said, "A man has good martial arts, and his wife cannot run." Ruqing looked up and down at the man with disabled legs with those seductive eyes, as if mocking him. The meaning in those eyes was even more obvious. A certain prince smiled instead of being angry and said, "Why, isn't Qing'er willing?" Ruqing disdainfully sneered. "I don't like those who are incompetent in that area." "Prince, we won't make an appointment." A certain prince became angry and pulled the person who spoke hard. "It seems that Qing'er has blindly listened to rumors outside again. Is it incompetent? I want to personally verify my true identity. This article is definitely 1v1 double cleanliness, without any pitfalls, all holes. Please rest assured to jump inside." Keywords of the novel. Time travel. I pampered the sick Wei king through space without a pop-up window. Time travel. I pampered the sick Wei king through space. Download the complete set of TXT. Time travel. I pampered the sick Wei king through space. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Traversing, Cheating Corpse. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Traversing, Cheating Corpse. Opening her eyes again, Ruqing found herself in a strange place, surrounded by pitch black and unable to see anything. Is this oneself, dead? In order to eliminate the zombies in that area, Ruqing did not hesitate to use himself as bait and led a group of zombies to the location where the explosive device had been installed beforehand, then activated the device and perished together with the zombies. How could the intense pain disappear in the blink of an eye, and one could even clearly feel their even and powerful breathing? Did you not die yet? Embark and seal the coffin. Before she could even think about it, a clanging sound came from above Ruqing's head, and she realized that she was lying in a square coffin. "I'm not dead yet, why seal the coffin?" Ruqing waved her lotus root arm lightly as she spoke. Then, with a loud bang, the incredibly sturdy coffin split into 4 parts, leaving only the coffin board lying under her body. Ruqing, who had seen the sun again, did not feel happy for her survival in the disaster for the first time. Instead, she looked at her hands incredulously and said, "Damn it, when did I step on a horse so badly?" The mourners clearly witnessed Ruqing's every move, their expressions were all stunned. The atmosphere outside became stiff and silent for a moment. Immediately after, he heard, "Ah! Princess Wei has faked a corpse." The maids dressed in mourning and mourning were all in chaos when they saw the situation, with tears hanging on their faces before they could wipe them dry. They ran away without risking their lives. Even the burly and robust coffin man couldn't help but fight and flee in a hurry when he saw the resurrected Ruqing. Ruqing climbed up from the bottom of the coffin and sat down. With a pair of beautiful phoenix eyes, she looked around and noticed that she was in the wilderness. Not far away was a fresh and moist mud pit, which was prepared for her. In a moment of confusion, her mind suddenly became swollen and painful, and a frenzy surged into her mind. Memories that did not belong to her were quickly read by her brain. Ruqing was stunned. She never expected that the explosion would squeeze her into a time and space rift, allowing her spiritual body to travel to another parallel space, the Eastern Yuan Kingdom. One of the coffin bearers was so scared that his feet couldn't move and he could only kneel and beg for mercy. I have a head full of grievances and debts, but don't come to me. I have an 80-year-old mother to raise and an 8-year-old younger brother to feed. I haven't married a wife yet, and I don't want to die young. Su Ruqing impatiently interrupted, "All right, I won't eat you again. Don't keep nagging." The guy couldn't believe it and stole his measurements with his spare light. Wang Fei, you didn't die. My lucky person has his own destiny, why is it so easy to die? The man who learned the truth immediately let go of the heart that was stuck in his throat, thinking to himself that the Princess of Wei was not favored either. He decided to leave himself and said, "Since the princess is fine, I won't disturb your peace. I'll leave." "Wait." Su Ruqing called out to his buddy. "But what other orders does the princess have?" Su Ruqing touched her hungry stomach and frowned, "I'm hungry, where can I eat?" The queen is hungry and wants to eat, so she naturally wants to return to the Wei prince's mansion. However, Su Ruqing suddenly remembered that her original identity was Princess Wei, and her home was the Wei prince's mansion. But what? However, the king of Wei secretly formed cliques and conspired against the court, and was ordered by the emperor to implicate 9 clans. It is feared that the Prince of Wei's mansion has already set up the King of Wei's memorial hall. The queen returned and was also buried with her. However, the assistant had no intention of telling Su Ruqing the truth. He thought to himself that the great demon of the King of Wei was not far from the end of his life. He was also happy to see this short-lived princess go back to be buried with him. "It's nothing, since your death, the King of Wei has been sleepless all night, thinking of you day and night. If His Highness knew that you were not only alive, but also safe and sound, he would be overjoyed and host a banquet to welcome you." Su Ruqing didn't care if he missed him or not, but only cared and said, "Setting up a banquet. Is it just eating a banquet?" The waiter chuckled inwardly and said, "Hee, the queen is right. Then you can lead the way for my queen. Let's hurry up and go home for dinner." "I'll comply, little one." After going through 18 twists and turns along the mountain road and enduring 90.9 and 80.1 difficulties, Su Ruqing finally arrived at the entrance of the Wei prince's mansion as he had hoped. Dong dong dong, dong dong dong. Su Ruqing weakly knocked on the vermilion door, but after knocking for a long time, he didn't even see a ghost, let alone someone coming to open the door. "Ah, you said, this Wei prince's mansion looks so grand. Why doesn't anyone open the door? How can I get in now?" After a long silence, Su Ruqing looked back in confusion and realized that the guy who had been following her before had long disappeared. "It's impolite to leave without even saying hello. Come on, we can't leave the main entrance, so we have to climb over the wall and enter." For a qualified Special Forces Major General with strong slicing abilities, climbing over a wall is a simple task, but his body is far weaker than Su Ruqing imagined. At the moment of jumping, Su Ruqing felt his eyes suddenly turn black, and he fell into a mess before he could stand firm. Su Ruqing rubbed her dizzy head, but before she could wake up, she heard a childish voice coming from behind. "Bad woman, why are you?" Su Ruqing turned her head and saw that the speaker was a cute and adorable little bun who looked only 4 or 5 years old. After a brief search of her memory, Su Ruqing knew that she was the son of Su Yichen, the crown prince of Wei, and Su Ian. "Ian, my dear son, my mother has returned." Su Ruqing ran up enthusiastically, wanting to hug him, but unexpectedly, Xiao Naibaozi avoided her arm in disgust and said, "Bad woman, aren't you dead? How can you still have the face to come back?" "Ian, this is. You don't like me. It's said that Jizi is more like a mother. Children aged 4 or 5 rely on their mothers the most. But why does this kid look at himself like he saw a pile of shit, so disgusted? You're okay to say it, it's all your fault. If it weren't for this bad woman's entanglement with the bad prince, colluding in secret to assassinate the Father King. How could the Father King be sentenced to be executed on a day by the Emperor's uncle? The more Xianbei thought about it, the more angry she became. The more angry she became, the more aggrieved she became. Tears streamed down her face, and she didn't forget to beat Su Ruqing with her small hands. "It's all your fault, this bad woman. You give back my father, you give back my father." In my memory, I learned that the original owner was the eldest daughter of the legitimate wife of the Prime Minister of the Eastern Yuan dynasty, who was 19 years old. In recent years, he has been developed into a second fool by his stepmother, deceived by the scumbag crown prince, colluded with him, and led to his husband Sui Chen being accused of accumulating power, rebelling, and usurping power. Currently, the entire Wei Prince's mansion is facing a crisis of widespread plagiarism. Not long after, the cute little bun will also be adopted and raised under the name of the Queen. Su Ruqing couldn't help but spit in disgust as she remembered her past actions. What should I do? Why don't I just rot in a coffin? I picked up a big bargain and started living again. Unexpectedly, this is a way for me to use this body to be reborn and clean up the mess from my original body. Gollum. Feeling unwell, Su Ruqing started singing the Empty City plan again. Su Ruqing was angry and hungry, but couldn't bear to watch Xianbei cry. He patiently coaxed, all right, don't cry. Can I save your father, and you can forgive me?" Xianbei grasped the key point of the conversation, her watery big eyes startled, and she asked in a milky voice, "Can you really save father?" "Well, but you have to promise me that once it's done, you'll have to take care of me to eat my fill." End of this chapter. Chapter 2. You also have today. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. You also have today the Imperial Palace Prison. After Sui Chen was imprisoned, Emperor Yanxian can be said to have summoned the strongest imperial guards to guard the entire imperial city. Not to mention people with 2 legs, even flies with wings cannot fly in. A group of people swaggered towards the direction of the prison and then stopped outside the iron gate of the prison. I don't know if the Crown Prince has come, but it's a mistake to welcome him from afar. "Your Highness, what kind of wind has brought you to this filthy place?" The officials who had just received the news and waited outside the prison door greeted me with a pleasing expression. Long Wei Shu took a big step and got off the carriage. He was wearing a silver and gold woven auspicious cloud robe, and his cloud boots on his feet were spotless. Standing outside the prison emitting a damp and decaying aura, it seemed out of place. The Crown Prince was thinking that Uncle Wei, who was accustomed to luxurious clothing and food, had been imprisoned for a while. He was afraid that he wouldn't get used to it, so he came to take a look. None of these officials are human spirits, and there are a few who dare to provoke the Wei Prince's mansion in this capital. Even the current emperor has to fear the existence of Wei Prince Sui Chen. Now that Sui Chen has been locked up, it's fake to come for a visit, but queuing up to mock is the real thing. The Crown Prince really has a bodhisattva heart. The King of Wei did not care about the kindness between the Emperor and the Crown Prince, but instead had the idea of rebellion. If this crime is not punished, it is unacceptable. Long Wei Shu was in a good mood after hearing these words, but on the surface, he still maintained his broad-minded persona. The Crown Prince believes that Uncle Huang was just momentarily deceived. "You all stay here, and I can go in." "Yes." The official walked into the prison with Long Wei Shu. As soon as he stepped in, he was unbearable by the disgusting smell. If it weren't for the thought of humiliating Sui Chen in a while, he wouldn't have come to such a place if he had died. "Your Highness, the person is inside here." The official approached and opened an iron window embedded in a stone wall. From here, people outside could see everything inside. "I haven't seen the Crown Prince for quite some time now. I want to talk about my relationship with my uncle and nephew. You all step down, and no one is allowed to disturb me without the permission of the Crown Prince." "Yes." Setting aside others, Long Wei-shu sneered without hesitation and looked down from the window. At a glance, I saw Sui Chen sitting in a wheelchair with his back facing him inside the prison. "Uncle Huang, I didn't expect you to have today too." Sui Chen seemed as if he hadn't heard Long Wei-shu's arrival, and he didn't even bother to lift his eyelids. Upon seeing this, Long Wei-shu was not distressed. Instead, he walked slowly to the prison and took out a handkerchief from his arms. He showed the embroidered words on the handkerchief to Sui Chen, saying, "Sadness is once again sorrowful. Marriage does not require crying. May we have one heart, and our white heads will not be separated." TSK, it seems that in the past 5 years at the Wei Prince's mansion, Aunt Huang has not only become more gentle and virtuous in temperament, but also gained a lot of knowledge. She can use poetry to express her feelings of loneliness and unbearable. Long Wei-shu threw the pure white silk handkerchief on the ground, his eyes full of disdain and mockery. Poetry is certainly good poetry, but it may not be appropriate to give this silk handkerchief to my nephew. How could Sui Chen not hear the mockery in Long Wei's words? It was just that Su Ruqing's original crush was already the crown prince, and he could only blame himself for marrying her by chance and raising an enemy for nothing, hiding by his side for so many years. Now, what he didn't expect was that his queen colluded with the current crown prince, colluding with him to the death. Now that the situation is over, you cannot escape death. For the sake of our uncle and nephew's affection, if you are willing to hand over the tiger talisman, I will plead for your mercy in front of my father and emperor, and spare your life. How about that? Sui Chen sat still, her black eyes slowly opening under her mask, and her dark and unclear expression lightly landed on the brocade handkerchief that had fallen to the side. Looking at Sui Chen, who was indifferent and didn't even give him a glance, Long Wei's pitiful patience disappeared in an instant. "Since that's the case, then don't blame my nephew's subordinates for being merciless," he said. Someone. The night wind struck, making people drowsy. 2 figures, one big and one small, came to the prison in the darkness like a giant cage. 15 minutes later, it's time for the prison guards to change their posts. A group of officers and soldiers walked towards the direction of the prison. The 2 figures hidden in the dark suddenly approached the group of officers and soldiers, and silently led them to the dark to knock them unconscious. "Do you know which prison your father is in?" In order to avoid attracting attention, Su Ruqing began to take off the clothes of the officers and soldiers, and then quickly changed them on. These officers and soldiers are all wearing helmets, and with a slight change in appearance, it is difficult to distinguish them in the dark. Xiao Naibaozi nodded and said, "I know, I'll take you there." "Okay." There was silence all around, except for the sound of torches burning in the footsteps of them walking. There are 3 gates in this prison, and the strongest cell on the far right is used to detain criminals with serious offenses. "The old man is the one locked in the innermost one," whispered Little Milk Bun as he walked ahead. Su Ruqing knew that the old man in Xiao Naibaozi's mouth was referring to Sui Chen, so she hugged Xiao Naibaozi and lightly bypassed the gaze of the guards, finally arriving at the gate of the prison where Sui Chen was being held. As soon as she arrived, she happened to encounter the scene of Long Wei-shu poisoning Sui Chen. Little Naibaozi almost rushed towards her father without hesitation, and without hesitation, took a heavy bite out of Long Wei-shu's arm. Long Wei-shu felt pain and shook Su Ian off hard, saying, "You bastard, how dare you bite me?" Xiao Shou protected Sui Chen in front of him without any fear, saying, "Bad prince, what have you done to my father?" Looking at Sui Chen, who was unconscious, Long Wei-shu chuckled inwardly and said, "Bastard. You sick young man has been poisoned by me and will soon go to see the king of hell. If you know better, just tell me where the tiger talisman is hidden. Otherwise, I don't mind sending you down to reunite with him now." I still wanted to give this lowly bastard a good lesson, but at this moment, I heard someone say, "Crown Prince, the Emperor has ordered you to enter the palace immediately to meet." Long Wei-shu snorted coldly and ordered, "Without the permission of the Crown Prince, no one is allowed to deliver food to him." The crown prince wants to see how long you, this fragile hard bone, can hold on. Su Ruqing, wearing a military uniform, stood at the entrance of the prison, looking down as the crown prince brushed past him. "Old man, are you okay? Don't die." The little steamed bun looked at her father's pale and powerless expression, and cried softly in fear. Su Yichen felt so uncomfortable that his consciousness was blurred. He only felt that there were millions of ants crawling on his body, biting his skin and greedily sucking on flesh and blood. Even so, the man still forced a smile and comforted the little bun in a low voice, "Honor, don't be afraid. As a father, there won't be anything wrong." End of this chapter. Chapter 3, Are You Cheating My King Again? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, Are You Cheating My King Again? If Long Wei Shu finds himself here, it will only cause more trouble. So when his figure completely disappears in the prison, Su Ruqing rushes forward to check Su Yichen's situation. A small hand with a slightly cool touch lightly covered Su Yichen's wrist, and Su Yichen instinctively guarded, "Who?" The saying goes, "I haven't seen you in a day. It's like 3 autumns apart. The prince forgot about me so quickly." How could Su Yichen not recognize this voice and say, "Su Ruqing, you?" Su Ruqing knew what he wanted to ask. "After my death, I transformed into a fierce ghost. Now I am seeking revenge from the prince." Su Yichen seemed to have thought of something and immediately said, "Oh, you are hiding very well. The crown prince has been lurking in this king for so many years, and now he is using feigning death to deceive even this king." Su Ruqing knew that Su Yichen had misunderstood, but it was not important. If the prince's words were a compliment to my acting skills, then I have no objection. Su Yichen originally thought that according to Su Ruqing's temperament, she would be anxious to argue for herself, but the woman in front of her admitted to whatever she said, openly angering him. "What are you doing here?" Su Ruqing lifted her eyes and met those sparkling eyes that were like shattered stars. It was the first time she had seen such beautiful eyes, and almost she fell into despair. "Let's see if the prince has died completely. If not, I'll help make up for it and let the prince walk smoothly." Su Ruqing said so, but the movements on his hands were doing the opposite. Su Yichen brushed away Su Ruqing with a brush of her hand, not allowing any physical contact between herself and her. "Get lost. Don't let me see you again." The man's powerful strength almost caused Su Ruqing to fall to the ground. She paused slightly and looked at his broken body expressionlessly, saying, "Long Wei Shu gave you poison just now. If you don't receive treatment again, you may really die." Su Yichen remained unmoved and said, "Get lost, don't let me say it a third time." Su Ruqing had a pair of beautiful eyebrows slightly twisted, and this person was full of iron-blooded evil energy, so powerful. Even if he is in a state of embarrassment at this moment, it is impossible to ignore his existence. Su Ruqing wouldn't think that Su Yichen's words were just a scare to herself. "If it weren't for my son's reluctance to part with your father, I would definitely not have taken the risk of saving you. Therefore, His Highness the King of Wei takes good care of himself. Since you don't want such a lovely son, I will take him and raise him with His Highness the Crown Prince." Su Ruqing picked up Su Ian, turned around, and walked out of the prison. Su Ruqing. Su Yichen never allowed his own son to recognize others as fathers, and Su Ruqing's words undoubtedly accurately stepped on his tail. Su Ruqing smiled lightly at the words and stopped to look back at the weak Su Yichen. "Your Highness, the Prince of Wei, has figured it out. Do you want to live well and watch your son grow up, or do you choose to just die so miserably? Do you have a way to save this king?" "No, but if you're obedient, I can help you detoxify the crown prince first." Su Yichen sneered and said, "Oh, Su Ruqing, aren't you on the same boat as the crown prince? Why did you save this king? Just because you are my child's father, is the prince still satisfied with this reason?" Su Yichen. Well, now that he is being bullied by dogs and Su Ruqing is being used as a scapegoat, even if he doesn't want to, as Enner's biological mother, what can he do to her? Su Ruqing saw that Sui Chen was silent, so she put down the small steamed bun in her arms and walked straight to his side. She picked up his hand again and carefully checked his pulse. The pulse was disordered and the breath was weak. The further the diagnosis was made, Su Ruqing's eyebrows became even tighter. Su Ruqing noticed that in addition to being poisoned by the crown prince, Sui Chen also had an unknown cold and cool toxin in his body. Due to Long Weishu's poison, it triggered an outbreak of cold poison. At this time, the two toxins were competing with each other and slowly spreading to his limbs. Fortunately, Sui Chen has a strong internal power to protect Qinyuan. This poison has not penetrated deep into the bone marrow and organs, and can be cured. Seeing Su Ruqing's serious expression, Xianan Baozi nervously asked, "You must be able to make the old man better, right?" Xiaonai Baozi's big deer-like eyes were fixed on Su Ruqing's face, afraid of hearing a bad answer. Su Ruqing. Xianan Baozi, where do you have confidence in me? Perhaps maternal love was rampant, and Su Ruqing couldn't bear to see the disappointed appearance of Xiaonai Baozi, so she had to agree, "Enner, don't worry. Mother will do her best to save your father." Su Ian, who was assured, grinned and suddenly felt that his mother didn't seem to dislike him so much. Su Ruqing raised her right hand and secretly activated the black jade ring she was wearing on her index finger. She then turned around to avoid Sui Chen and his son, and took out a black pill from the space ring where they couldn't see it. She also discovered this cheat later, and unexpectedly, the space ring of the apocalypse also traveled with her. Black pills are the rarest emergency medicine in the apocalypse, and their ingredients can detoxify mutated zombies and also have a conquering effect on most toxins in nature. Su Ruqing reluctantly handed the pill to Sui Chen's mouth, but even though the man was unconscious, he still did not let go of his guard and tightly pursed his thin lips, not giving her a chance. "If you don't want to die, just eat it." Su Ruqing forced Sui Chen to lift his head with one hand, then squeezed open his mouth and roughly stuffed the pill in. Sui Chen was not conscious, but now she was pained by Su Ruqing's powerful strength. He couldn't help but wonder in his heart, and this woman's strength had grown so strong that his chin almost dislocated from being pinched by her. In no time, Sui Chen, who had taken the pill, had a violent reaction. His body couldn't stop trembling, as if there was a powerful force that twisted and tugged at his muscles, causing him even more pain. Sui Chen snorted in silence, suppressing the pain and opening his eyes to stare at Su Ruqing. "Su Ruqing, did you deceive me again? He is really foolish. How can he believe that a woman who has a second heart for him will save him?" She wished she had died early. Sui Chen was already painfully unconscious, staring coldly at Su Ruqing. If his gaze could kill someone, she would already be riddled with wounds. Upon hearing this, Su Ruqing was first shocked, but then raised an eyebrow disapprovingly. His body is at the end of its strength, but he is able to stay awake without any treatment and without the help of external buffering pills. This is truly terrifying willpower. The pill I gave you has a stronger power, but the pain is only temporary, it will save your life. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Death of the Princess. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Death of the Princess. As Su Ruqing said, the pain was only temporary. In no time, Sui Chen's condition improved, his body gradually warmed up, his whole body was full of strength, and his spirit improved a lot. Su Ruqing took out the remaining dry food from the space and handed it to Sui Chen. She knew that since he was imprisoned yesterday, the prison had not brought any food. This is not as luxurious as the Wei Prince's mansion. Please make do with some food. Sui Chen, who was back to normal, was sitting in his wheelchair, his cold eagle eyes staring at Su Ruqing's mantu, wondering why Su Ruqing would do so. Isn't she the one who admires the crown prince and exhales from the same nostril as the crown prince? By taking this opportunity, they had a good chance of eradicating themselves, but she risked entering the prison to save herself, and now she's giving herself something to eat. What is she doing this for? What? Afraid of me poisoning inside? Su Yichen remained silent, while Su Ruqing remained speechless. If I wanted you to die, I could have just watched you die from poisoning. Why bother to circle around so much? Su Ruqing took a bite of mantu, chewed and swallowed it several times. Can you rest assured to eat now? Su Yichen took the mantu in doubt. He thought for a while and asked directly. If you do this, aren't you afraid to offend the prince? Will he bother you then? I've angered so many people that I'm not afraid of the crown prince. Su Yichen didn't expect to receive such an answer. Time passed by minute by second, and it was not advisable to stay here for a long time. Su Ruqing had to take the small steamed bun with him, otherwise it would be troublesome when the unconscious officers and soldiers woke up. Su Ruqing picked up Su Yichen's soft little hand and said, "Honor, follow your mother." Unexpectedly, Su Yichen stood still and said, "We're leaving." What should the old man do? Don't worry about this, I will find a way to rescue him. You go with your mother. If someone finds out, neither of us will be able to leave. Su Yichen looked at Su Ruqing, then turned around to look at Su Yichen. Seeing Su Yichen nodded lightly, he finally felt at ease and followed Su Ruqing away. Su Ruqing. Upon hearing this, Su Ruqing, who had already stepped out of the prison gate, paused in her footsteps. No matter what our grudges may be, the child is innocent. During my absence, you must take good care of Honor. Faced with the false accusations of villains and the impeachment of civil and military officials, Su Yichen was not sure what his fate would be. Especially the sudden transformation of Ruqing made him uncertain which side she was on. No matter what the outcome is, he doesn't want to involve innocent children, and he doesn't want his child to become an orphan without a father or mother when he reaches the worst possible situation. Upon hearing this, Su Ruqing only paused for a moment without saying a word, and then quickly disappeared holding onto the small steamed bun. Su Yichen took mantu in his hand and stared at the direction of Su Ruqing's departure. His eyes were dim. After Su Ruqing left the palace prison, the first thing he did was to find the largest and most luxurious Manchun tower in the capital and have a meal. Dry and astringent grains are not as fragrant as oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. Moreover, there wasn't much dry food left in the space, and only a little bit was left to feed Su Yichen. It's really rare to be able to drink and have fun at this time, sighed the young Sima after a few rounds with his colleagues. Have you been mentally and physically exhausted by the events in the court recently? I think you haven't rested well when I see that you are feeling dark at the moment, haven't you? Oh, don't mention it. Sima Damon said. Is it related to the matter of Princess Junhua? Although Huanwu was not in the capital, his cousin was working in the palace, so he naturally had better communication than others. Su Ruqing was engrossed in indulging in a feast when the sound of conversation came from the neighboring room. Her ear power was always good, but when she heard Princess Junhua, her chewing speed unconsciously slowed down. According to her original memory, Su Ruqing learned that Princess Junhua was the eldest princess of the current emperor and the most beloved daughter of the emperor. According to rumors from the outside world, Princess Junhua is a rare beauty in the world, but unfortunately, her beauty is short-lived. She fell ill in March of the first half of last year and was unable to recover from her illness. Later, she passed away on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival in the same year. That's right. Lord Sima nodded and suddenly lowered his voice. The princess died on Mid-Autumn Festival, but the funeral didn't take place until after Yuanshao, filled round balls made of glutinous rice. Flour for Lantern Festival. During this period, many people fell to the ground and many senior officials were demoted. Huanwu put down his wine glass and twisted his eyebrows, asking, is it possible that there was something suspicious about the death of the princess? Otherwise, why did the emperor start investigating again? I heard that because of this, even the third prince, who was a candidate for the crown prince, was implicated and exiled to the northern wilderness. Mr. Hu is truly the leader of the Jingzhou, exceptionally intelligent and able to handle just a little bit. But if Princess Junhua's death was not an accident, then who is the real culprit behind the scenes? Although I am only the local Jingzhou-in and have no fortune to witness Princess Fengyi, I have also heard that the princess has a pure and kind heart and has never had any grudges with anyone. Who is it that has such a cruel heart, and has inflicted such a cruel blow on the kind-hearted princess? Sir Sima drank heavily and his eyes gradually became blurred. Sir Hu, may I have the courage to speculate? There are two options for inheriting the throne now, one is the current crown prince and the other is the third prince. Now, due to the princess incident, the third prince has been exiled to the northern wilderness, and even the Wei king, who can be said to be sitting on par with the Long family, has been greatly affected. Do you think who will ultimately benefit from this? Huanwu's eyes lit up in an instant, as if Mao Saidun had opened. Sir Sima said. Sir Sima stopped and interrupted Huanwu's words in a timely manner. Shu, it's better not to say too much about this matter. It's rare to have a conversation with Lord Hu today. I drank a few more cups on the spur of the moment. It's not appropriate to take these words seriously after drinking. I kindly ask Lord Hu not to take them seriously. Wan Wuming picked up the wine jug and poured a glass of wine for Lord Sima, saying, Lord Sima said yes, I have been taught. Here, I toast you. Su Ruqing withdrew her attention, and the words of the two in the compartment lingered in her mind for a long time. Out of some terrible intuition, she felt that Princess Junhua might be the key point in rescuing the crisis in the Wei Prince's mansion. Enner, do you know Princess Junhua as you used to follow your father in and out of the palace? Su Ian, who was buried in her head and crazily gnawing on the chicken legs, raised her head upon hearing this. Her agile eyes looked at Su Ruqing in confusion, and her mouth murmured, What did you say? He forgot himself too much just now. He didn't hear what Su Ruqing said clearly. Since the incident, the Wei Prince's mansion has been ordered to be sealed off by the emperor. Not only has the property been sealed off from unauthorized use, but even the people in the mansion have disappeared. Some were captured and sent to exile, some were exiled to wasteland, and even worse, they were taken to jail, waiting for execution. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Has some other meanings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 has some other meanings. The vast mansion left him with only a pitiful and unwanted milk doll, as well as a few elderly, weak, and disabled people with limited mobility. Su Ian can no longer remember how long it has been since she had enough to eat. Fortunately, these days, the kind-hearted maidservant would have given herself some food from time to time, thinking of their father and son's kindness. Otherwise, he would have starved to death long ago. Su Ruqing looked at Xiao Naibaozi's oily and dirty face, with a look of heartache in her eyes. Enner, eat slowly. If it's not enough, I'll give you some more. In the future, with my mother around, you don't have to go hungry anymore. Mother. Kiss. Little Milk Bun exclaimed to Su Ruqing with uncertainty, his eyes filled with tension. What's going on? Are you really not tired of Enner calling you that? Before, when he called Su Ruqing his mother, Su Ruqing did not allow it, and even got angry about it and beat him hard. Su Ruqing suddenly realized the meaning of the look in Xiao Naibaozi's eyes as she looked at her. When she remembered what she had done before, she really wished she could go back and give her a few big ear scrapes. Although her marriage with Su Yichen was a twist of fate, she was also arranged by others to take the love potion, which led to the birth of Xian and Baozi. But after all, this is a piece of flesh falling from oneself. How innocent the child is. It's said that tiger poison doesn't eat children, how could she be willing to do so? Enner, do you know why my mother died but came back to life? Xiao Naibaozi shook his head, and he really thought about this question for a long time. Actually, after my mother's death, my soul went down to the bottom. Yan Wangye said that I had caused too many sins before my death, and the underworld refused to accept me. That's why I returned to the underworld to make up for the mistakes I made. Su Ian looked at Su Ruqing incredulously, as if pondering whether her words were trustworthy. Really? Of course it's true. He also said that I must take good care of you, saying that you are my parents' lucky star. With our family together, the days ahead will definitely get better and better. So, in the future, my mother won't leave you alone anymore. She will definitely love you and love you well. Su Yian clapped her hands happily upon hearing this and said, "Okay. Then I won't be a childless child without a mother anymore. My mother also hurts me." Su Ian didn't know how much his words made Su Ruqing feel. The more I think about her, the tighter her fists become. This original body is a bit unknowable. Alright, then Anna answers her mother's question. How much do you know about Princess Junhua? Princess Junhua. Oh, you mean the woman who has been pestering the old man in the palace. Do you say Princess Junhua is clinging to your father's king? Su Ian nodded in confusion and said, every time the old man enters the palace to handle affairs, that annoying Princess Junhua always comes over to pay her respects. The old man is annoying her, no matter how hard he drives her away. After listening to Su Ian's words, Su Ruqing felt lost in thought. If what Xianbeishi said is true, then it seems that Princess Junhua has some other meaning to Su Ichen. Su Ruqing continued to ask, what else? Also, she doesn't like me and wants to poison me. Su Ruqing was shocked and said, what? She wants to harm you. When did it happen? Although children are young, they can still distinguish who is good or bad for them, so there is no need for Su Ian to lie about such things. Dare to have ulterior motives towards her little bun. If it weren't for this person already dead, Su Ruqing would have had to kick her head out. Su Ian tilted her little head and thought for a moment, just last year before she died. She said the old man didn't want to divorce his mother simply because of my presence. She also said that Anna was a stumbling block and a burden. Only when Anna was gone, she could be with the old man and become his wife. Su Ruqing noticed the injustice in Su Yian's eyes as she spoke, and her heart tightened. She pulled Su Yian over and hugged her tightly, saying, nonsense, Anna is the mother's treasure, not a stumbling block or burden. Su Ian agreed with Su Ruqing's words and smiled sweetly. The old man said the same thing. Alright, then hurry up and eat. After finishing, my stepmother will comfort you to sleep. Okay. The Wei Prince's mansion is now under the guard of the Imperial Palace Guard. If you want to go back and live there, you may not be able to do so. Su Ruqing thought for a moment and secretly took out a few pieces of broken jade from the space where Xianbeishi couldn't see. These pieces of jade were used by others to exchange food with her in the apocalypse, and now it's time for them to come in handy. Su Ruqing asked a person who could identify the goods to exchange it for silver and made a few days of advance payment for food and accommodation in the restaurant. There were not many silver bills left, but Su Ruqing knew that this money could do a lot of things. Midnight. A rustling sound outside the door disturbed the mother and son on the bed, making them very uncomfortable. Who? Even while sleeping, Su Ruqing's vigilance remained as strong as ever, a good habit he had developed in the apocalypse. A masked man in black stood in the middle of the room, where there were no lights on, so Su Ruqing didn't see very clearly. Surprisingly, it's you. You're not dead. Su Ruqing recognized the voice. He was the dark guard beside Su Ichen, Xuanye. Due to their special status, the secret guards of the Wei Prince's mansion are not on the list of exiles, and apart from Su Ichen and a few of his confidants, no one knows about their existence. Since learning that Su Ichen had been imprisoned, Xuanye rushed back from the battlefield overnight. He was worried about the safety of the young prince and found this place all the way, but did not expect to see Su Ruqing. Su Ruqing stood up and lit the candle, then looked around and made sure that no one else was following. He closed the doors and windows tightly and said, "Xuanya, how did you come here?" Xuanya twisted a pair of thick black handsome eyebrows and said in a cold voice, "Of course you're here to find the young prince. Hand him over." Su Ruqing felt very uncomfortable when he heard Xuanya's blunt tone. "Honor is very safe with me. My own child, I don't need to worry about the guards anymore." "Oh, hypocritical. If it weren't for you, how could the prince?" Before finishing her sentence, the little bun who heard the commotion got up from the bed and rubbed her eyes with a pair of pink fists. "Mother, who are you talking to?" "Ha! Xuanya, why are you here?" Xuanya didn't say much, but skipped over Su Ruqing and came to the bedside to pick up Su Yian's hand. "Little prince, before the prince comes out, I will take care of you. Please leave with me," he said. Su Yian forcefully withdrew her hand and said, "I don't want you, I want my mother." "Little prince, you must understand that this is not a time for mischief. Only by staying with my subordinates can you ensure your safety. You must come with me." Su Ruqing wrapped her hands around her chest and looked at Xian Yi with ease. What the Xian guard said, "My own son, would I eat him? Why is Honor not safe to stay by my side?" End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Heart of the Emperor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Heart of the Emperor. Poisonous woman, don't flatter yourself. You even dare to plan your own husband, who knows if you will poison your own son. Xuanya's eyes were crimson, as if Su Ruqing said one more word, he would take her life. If it weren't for the prior explanation from the prince, considering that Su Ruqing is the biological mother of the young prince, it shouldn't be against her. Otherwise, this woman would have died under his sword countless times. He originally heard that Su Ruqing had died suddenly, and he secretly congratulated the prince for finally getting rid of that broom star. Unexpectedly, this woman did not even die. Su Ruqing didn't want to argue with him. "I know you are loyal to Sui Chen and also want to take Honor out of kindness. But if the crown prince finds out about you, then where should Honor go? At present, Honor's wisest choice is to follow me. No one will doubt the head of a deceased person." "Are you right, Xian guard?" Xuanya's clenched fist instantly relaxed, and what Su Ruqing said was indeed good. But he couldn't believe Su Ruqing. After all, this woman betrayed the prince. Xuanya's sharp eyes fixed on Su Ruqing's face and said, "How can I believe you will protect the young prince? What if you confess the young prince to please the crown prince? Don't worry, not to mention that Honor is my child, I will never give Long Wei Shu another chance to harm me, that inconsistent beast on the surface and inside." That's right, the original body was not killed by a sudden death, but by being used up by Long Wei Shuli. In order to prevent confidential information from being leaked, someone was sent to exterminate his life and strangle him with ropes. Xuanya hesitated, as if considering how true or false Su Ruqing's words were. After thinking for a moment, Su Ruqing spoke up and said, "There is something I need you to do. This matter is very important and it concerns the safety of your prince and even the entire Wei royal family." "What's up?" Xuanya's expression was serious. If Su Ruqing asked him to do something, he would definitely not agree. But when he heard that it was about the prince and the Wei prince's mansion, he still chose to patiently listen to her. "I'm sure you've heard about the third prince, haven't you?" "I've heard of it a bit. In your opinion, could the death of Princess Junhua be attributed to the third prince?" Xuanya didn't know why Su Ruqing asked so, but he still expressed his true thoughts. The third prince and Princess Junhua are siblings, both of whom were born by Guoshufei. Moreover, their relationship has always been good. It should be said that the third prince, as an elder brother, would not poison his own younger sister even if there were great reasons. Su Ruqing expressed his speculation, so this third prince is highly likely to be wronged. You must find a way to find the third prince now. Perhaps there will be unexpected key evidence in him that can prove the innocence of your prince. Upon hearing Su Ruqing's words, Xian Ye's hair suddenly froze. Why didn't he think of this incident? Su Ruqing is right. The third prince is the choice of the heir, and the person who caused this incident to the third prince will never remain indifferent. Perhaps there is some crucial evidence on the third prince. Okay, let me trust you for now. The young prince will be entrusted to your care for the time being. Without delay, I will set off immediately. Wait a minute. Is there anything else? Su Ruqing dug out a purse embroidered with crayons under his pillow and handed it to Xuanya, saying, when you go to visit your prince, give him this. Inside this purse is candy that can replenish energy for the body. Tell him to remember that he can only eat 2 in a day, not more than 3 at most. Su Ruqing was really afraid that before she could save the person, Su Yichen would starve to death in the prison. She knew that Xuanya would definitely go to see Su Yichen, so she took out the energy candy in the space and asked Xuanya to bring it to him. Xuanya took the purse with half a doubt and said, okay. Xuanya leaped towards the window and his figure disappeared into the dark night. In the palace of the Eastern Yuan dynasty, it was already late at night, and the imperial study where Emperor Yan Qian was handling politics was still brightly lit. Your Majesty, it's getting late at this time. You should pay attention to the dragon's body, whispered Li De, the eunuch who served in front of Emperor Yan Qian, as he continued to read the memorial. Upon hearing this, Emperor Yan Qian threw down the fold on his hand and closed his eyes wearily, his expression unfathomable. Is everything okay inside? Li De knew immediately where Emperor Yan Qian was asking. Yes, everything is fine. With the presence of Lord Sima, there won't be any problem. Lord Sima just sent a message saying that the crown prince has gone to visit today. Upon hearing this, a strange gleam flashed in the eyes of Emperor Yan Qian. Their uncles and nephews also have some kind of friendship. Yes. The air condensed for a moment, and in the vast imperial study hall, only the faint breathing of 2 people remained. The king of Wei secretly hid his armor with the intention of rebellion. How should I punish him? Suddenly, Emperor Yan Qian spoke up. This. I dare not discuss matters in the court recklessly. Li De only felt his heart beat half slow. Since the Wei king was imprisoned, the emperor's thoughts have become even more unpredictable, and no one knows what he is really thinking. I'll tell you what to say, said Emperor Yan Qian with a slightly cold voice and an irresistible dignity. Yes, I believe that the emperor has been very tolerant of the Wei prince's mansion for the sake of the relationship between the late emperor and the old Wei king. This Wei king not only does not know how to repay kindness, but also has the evil intention of plotting rebellion. It is truly despicable. We should act according to the laws of the Eastern Yuan dynasty. After Li De finished speaking, he carefully glanced at Yan Qindi. Watching his eyebrows stretch and his expression show no displeasure, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The Wei prince's mansion has made great contributions to our Dongyuan Jiangshan for 100 years. How can I disregard any mercy? Emperor Yan Qian's eyes were half lowered, and under the dim candlelight, he couldn't see the expression in his eyes clearly. Your Majesty, these are 2 different things. If we don't punish them, it will be difficult to convince the people. Yeah. All the civil and military officials in the court are staring at me, and I have no choice but to do it. As the words fell, Emperor Yan Qian suddenly smiled. This smile made Evergreen's hair stand up all over his body. The emperor is wise. By the way, on the third prince's side, you have issued me an edict not to mistreat him on the North Wilderness Road. After all, he is my own son, and the guards should not be too heavy on him. On the other hand, Emperor Yan Qian did not really believe that his third son, Long Yuan, was the murderer of Junhua. However, the crown prince presented evidence in front of him, and his words were as solid as a mountain of iron evidence. In front of civil and military officials, Emperor Yan Qian had to punish Long Yuan's crime. His third son, he needs to have a clear mind and skills, but in terms of scheming, he is still slightly inferior to the crown prince. Li De bowed respectfully and said, I will abide by the holy orders. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. If you want to add sin, why not hesitate? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. If you want to add sin, why not hesitate? Su Ruqing has not been idle these days. In order to prove Su Yichen's innocence, she secretly searched for evidence, but in the process, she broke a huge secret. Mother, what is this? Following Xiao Naibaozi's gaze, Su Ruqing looked at the jade in her hand, which was playing with. The jade was all red and carved into the shape of a unicorn beast. The jade body is transparent with a slight warmth, and its value is self-evident. It's nothing, it's just a little thing I found on the roadside. Anna woke up, but she needs to wake up next. Su Ruqing said to Su Ian, who had just woken up. Well, Anna wants to be hugged by her mother, Su Ian said as she opened her arms and waited for Su Ruqing to come and pick him up. In the past few days, Su Ruqing and her son have been getting along very well. At first, she was worried that Xianbaozi would be wary of her, as her original body had left a significant physical and mental trauma on the child. But now, at first glance, Xianbaozi is so sticky that she can't do it anymore. She's shouting so hot every time she takes a bite. Why are we all rushing towards the city gate? Did something happen? I heard that the emperor and the crown prince still cannot accept the fact that Princess Junhua has passed away, and it is because of the rebellion of the Wei king that they have been sleepless for several days. When the courtiers saw that the emperor was indecisive about the rebellion of the Wei king, they proposed a public trial of the Wei king. Now everyone is rushing to join the fun. The emperor and the crown prince are really kind-hearted and have a soft face. All of this was caused by the demon of the king of Wei. Yeah. That big demon of the king of Wei is really despicable. We must punish him severely. Punish the demon severely, punish the demon severely. Su Ruqing held Su Ian and sat on the windowsill of the side room of Manchun building. Looking down, she saw more and more people shouting angrily, including several familiar faces, walking towards the direction of the palace with the crowd. Mother, let's go take a look too. Su Ian looked at the angry crowd leaving, her immature face showing a faint worry. After leaving Manchun Tower, Su Ruqing hugged Su Ian and followed behind the crowd. In order to avoid attracting attention, Su Ruqing disguised the two of them a bit before that. Soon, they arrived outside the gate of the palace. There are already many people gathered there, and the imperial guards are surrounding the people to prevent anyone from rushing into the palace. I beg the emperor to punish the demon severely. I beg the emperor to punish the demon severely. The emotions of the people are very intense, and there is a strong tendency to break through the imperial guard. Su Ruqing's brow furrowed tightly. The court affairs would be stirred up in the city, and everyone knew it. It goes without saying that someone was secretly stirring up the hearts of the people, and the ignorant masses were just blindly following suit. In this way, being outnumbered is not friendly to Su Yichen. At this moment, a bright yellow light entered the view of everyone on the outer city wall of the palace. The emperor has arrived. With a sharp announcement, the crowd instantly quieted down. When the emperor arrives, all kneel down. Someone reported and quickly knelt down. Long live the emperor, long live. Su Ruqing followed behind the crowd, watching everyone kneel down. She pursed her lips and crouched down holding Su Ian. I have thoroughly investigated the rebellion of King Wei, and I will definitely give everyone an explanation. Emperor Yanxian, dressed in a dragon robe, looked down at the people kneeling below and shouted. Because apart from his voice, there is not a single sound, so most people can hear his words. Your Majesty, I earnestly request that the Emperor severely punish the King of Wei. As is well known, the King of Wei has committed all kinds of evil in the city, and now he has the evil intention of plotting rebellion. If he continues to develop, the land may change hands, and it may not be far away. A man in official uniform knelt down at the front and said in a deep voice, tears streaming down. Li De, who was standing in the city with Emperor Yanqian, recognized him as the left prime minister. Last year, the daughter of the left prime minister married the crown prince and became the crown princess. Your Majesty is the biological father of the crown princess and the left prime minister. Father, since the people's anger is difficult to calm, why not deal with Sui Chen today? Long Wei Shu stood behind Emperor Yanqian, listening to the words of the people below, as if he had beaten chicken blood. There is only one message hovering in my mind, which is that Sui Chen is going to die, he is going to die. Your Majesty, Sui Chen has committed heinous crimes. I earnestly request your Majesty to severely punish the traitors. I earnestly request the Emperor to severely punish the traitors. Emperor Yanqian turned his back to the courtiers, his messy eyebrows furrowed and his face darkened. Spread my decree and bring the criminal Sui Chen up. Emperor Yanqian turned around and shouted loudly. Yes. Upon seeing this, Ruqing couldn't help but clench her fists under the wide white skirt sleeves. It seems that Emperor Yanqian is going to use public anger to deal with Sui Chen. Mother, look, it's an old man. In my thoughts, I saw a prisoner's car slowly pushing over from the crowd. Sui Chen in the prison car was still dressed in black, sitting in the bumpy prison car as stable as Mount Tai and looking calm. Even in such a disheveled situation, his aura remained undiminished. The gold and copper mask on his face reflected a dazzling light in the sunlight, and the domineering aura emanating from his body was natural. No one dared to underestimate this man who was accused of being a prisoner under the stairs. Several officers and soldiers holding knives walked forward to open the door of the prison car, took out chains and handcuffs as thick as their arms, and put them on for Sui Chen. Then, in front of everyone's eyes, the man was pushed towards the direction of the trial platform. Someone shouted, "Bold traitor Sui Chen, don't kneel down when you see the emperor. Master Xiang is really a fool. When did the master of the Su family kneel before someone? You." The left prime minister choked on the obstruction. Indeed, the state of Dongyuan was so prosperous that most of the credit belonged to the Su family. Since the time of the late emperor, it has been passed down that the descendants of the Su family do not need to kneel before the emperor. Prime Minister Zhou deliberately said this, he just wanted to see how Sui Chen, who is disabled to this point, can continue to be arrogant. But Sui Chen was clearly on the brink of death and didn't know how to be afraid. Emperor Yanqian gave a faint glance at the withered left prime minister and then shouted coldly, "Sui Chen, do you know your guilt?" Sui Chen remained neither humble nor arrogant. "I don't know what the crime is." Emperor Yanqian looked at Sui Chen in the audience as if he had seen the mighty and indomitable old king of Wei. The old king of Wei and the late emperor have good social relations. If it weren't for the old king of Wei's concession in the Chu Ba dispute, the Eastern Yuan kingdom would have already been under the control of the Su family. With this in mind, Emperor Yanqian seemed to have a strong anger blocking his chest, which could not be calmed for a long time. "Sui Chen, I have shown all kinds of tolerance towards your Su family in the face of the old Wei king. You have even harbored malicious thoughts of rebellion. Now that the evidence is solid, what else can you argue? Iron evidence is like a mountain. Oh, that's just a one-sided statement from the flattering courtiers and petty people around the emperor. If you want to add guilt, why bother?" Sui Chen's voice was calm as water, as if talking about something insignificant. But it was this sentence that caused all the courtiers in the audience to start stirring up. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Reverse. There's a good show to watch now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Reverse. There's a good show to watch now, Your Majesty, the King of Wei is too arrogant. He clearly doesn't take the emperor seriously and disdains the royal law. If he violates the law below, the emperor must not let him go. My lord, seconded. I have attached the proposal. Emperor Yanqian looked at the group of civil and military officials kneeling below, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. Very well, my courtiers, I am truly pleased. Emperor Yanxian, however, made a difficult judgment and said, so, by my decree, Su Yichen secretly hides armor, forges weapons, and intends to rebel against the court. Today's ironclad evidence is like a mountain, and Su Yichen has no remorse to say. He even committed crimes below Long Wei. According to the laws of the Eastern Yuan dynasty, Su Yichen is sentenced to be removed from Wei Wangrong and demoted to Bai. 3 days later at 3:15 p.m., he will be beheaded. Upon hearing this, Su Ruqing took a deep breath. Su Yichen, 3 days from now, ask and behead. Someone, take the criminal Su Yichen back to the prison and wait for his execution. Wait. The silence of the whole room was suddenly broken by a cold and indifferent female voice. Su Ruqing stood up from the crowd, holding Su Yian in his hand. His face under the broad canopy was neither servile nor aloof. If those weapons and armor were not privately made by the King of Wei, does it prove that the King of Wei is innocent? Long Wei frowned and said boldly, who is the one who dares to openly collide with the emperor? Wearing a hat and hat, tightly wrapped, is it not visible? Su Ruqing's voice was clear and crisp, but she could hear a hint of coldness. Your Highness, the Crown Prince is so forgetful. It's only been half a month since we last saw each other, so we can't recognize my consort's voice. As she spoke, Su Ruqing took off her hat and revealed her clean and fair face, standing calmly in front of everyone's eyes. At the moment when Su Yichen caught a glimpse of Su Ruqing, the lips under the golden copper mask smiled faintly. Long Weishu thought he was dizzy when he saw Su Ruqing's face and said, surprisingly, it's you. Su Ruqing, you didn't die. Su Ruqing sneered and said, what's wrong? I didn't die, Your Highness the Crown Prince was surprised. I don't know why, but at the moment when he met Su Ruqing's eyes, Long Weishu felt that she was like a demon from hell. He couldn't help but feel scared and said, you. How dare you pretend to die? This is the crime of deceiving the king. Someone, take this person down, and together with the traitor Su Yichen, they will be executed in the future. Your Highness the Crown Prince is in such a hurry to execute my consort. Did he do something shameful, afraid that my consort might shake you out? Long Weishu shook his sleeve and robe, with a dangerous expression on his collar. What nonsense! The Crown Prince's conduct is just right, you deceitful witch, don't spit blood out. Su Ruqing pressed hard step by step. If the Crown Prince's words and actions were done correctly, it would be better to ask the Crown Prince and my consort to confront each other. You! Absurdity! This is not a bustling village and city, how can we allow you to be so noisy? Emperor Yanxian looked at the chaotic scene and had to come out to stabilize the situation. Looking at the chaotic crowd, Emperor Yanxian's face didn't look much better. Who is under the stage? Report your name. Su Ruqing walked forward with Su Yian, and with a slight gesture of blessings, he said, my wife Su Ruqing, I have seen the emperor. Su Ruqing, I heard that you died suddenly 5 days ago, and now you are standing here in good condition. What explanation do you have? Returning to the emperor, my wife was indeed harmed by a villain 5 days ago, but fortunately, she was saved by a passing doctor and finally saved her life. Emperor Yanxian looked at Su Ruqing, her eyes were almost the same as those of Su Yichen, which surprised him. You said you could prove the innocence of the King of Wei, then I ask you, where is the evidence? Su Ruqing quickly took out the jade qilin from his sleeve and raised his hand to show it to the crowd, saying, I don't know the emperor, do you recognize this? The courtiers below were once again shocked upon seeing this. Ah! Isn't this the Crown Prince's Kirin seal? Yeah, this qilin seal is a symbol of the Crown Prince's power. How did it fall into the hands of the Wei Princess? Emperor Yanxian narrowed his eyes dangerously, completely unaware that he had fallen into Su Ruqing's trap. I naturally recognize that this is the qilin seal that I personally bestowed upon the Crown Prince. But why did this qilin seal fall into your hands? Every crown prince will receive the Kirin seal bestowed upon him by the emperor, which symbolizes power inferior to the emperor. Now that the Kirin seal is in the hands of Su Ruqing, it is likely this Qilin seal was handed over by the third prince to his wife. The audience was once again surprised. Isn't the third prince exiled to the northern wilderness? How did he get involved with the crown prince? I heard that these three princes seem to have been wrongly accused. The death of Princess Junhua was actually done by the crown prince. The crown prince falsely accused the third prince with the intention of removing the stumbling block, so that the emperor can ascend to the throne smoothly in 100 years. Ah! So, that third prince is really unjust. Is there a reversal in this matter? There's a good show to watch now. After listening to the whispers from the audience, Prime Minister Zhou couldn't sit still and said, "What nonsense. Do you have any evidence to prove that the Qilin seal was given to you by the third prince? Are you sure you didn't steal it from the crown prince? Please be calm, Lord Zhou. If you want evidence, I'll give it to you." Xuanye. I am subordinate. The third prince can come out to meet the emperor now. Soon, the third prince, dressed in prison uniform, was brought up by Xuanye. At the moment when Long Weishu saw the third prince, his heart was as dead as ashes. How could this be like this? Long Yuan, wasn't he already killed by his own people during his exile? Yuaner, is that you? Emperor Yanxian looked at Long Yuan, who was disheveled and covered in scars, and said to himself that it was fake not to feel sorry. Father, yes, I am Yuan heir, I am Yuan heir. Father and son met, tears streaming down their faces. Emperor Yanxian quickly stepped down from the stage to help up the dragon wall and said, "Didn't I order those people to treat you better? Your injury. My son was pursued by the crown prince's forces during his exile. If it weren't for the secret guards sent by the Empress Wei to save my son, I'm afraid he would have been a pile of resentful bones by now." Upon hearing Long Yuan mention himself, Long Weishu had to stand up and defend himself. Third Emperor, this meal can be eaten recklessly, but words cannot be spoken recklessly. Do you have any evidence that the crown prince sent someone to pursue you? Emperor Yan Qian was also confused and said, "What the hell is going on? Returning to my father's emperor, my son is not without evidence. The assassin who pursued my son, Father Wang, also recognized him. That person is the crown prince's confidant, Hideyoshi. Now that Hideyoshi has died in the hands of the Xian guard, if my son really wronged the crown prince, can the crown prince tell me where Hideyoshi is now?" This. Since being sent out, there has been no news from the hidden figure. Now when asked where others are, how do they respond? Father Emperor Mingjian, Junhua's death was really not caused by Yuan heir. Yuan heir is unjustly accused, and I beg Father Emperor to make decisions for Yuan heir. With this, Long Yuan knelt on the ground, pleading with tears. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Accounting After Autumn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Accounting After Autumn. Emperor Yan Qian's eyebrows were tightly twisted together, and he gave the crown prince a fierce glare. "This rebellious son, please don't really do something to hit his face. If you have any grievances, please explain them in detail. I will definitely uphold justice for you. Returning to my father, in fact, Junhua's death was not the result of my courtiers, but rather the crown prince's false accusation against me. In fact, the real culprit who killed Junhua was the crown prince." Long Yuan's words were resounding and caused a stir in the audience. On that day, Junhua had no intention of encountering the crown prince's deliberate rebellion and wanted to falsely accuse the Prince of Wei. As you know, Junhua liked the Prince of Wei, so she sneaked out of the palace to tell him the news. Unexpectedly, she was stopped by the crown prince's forces on the way and was brutally silenced. At this point, Long Yuan's eyes showed a look of regret. At least it was his own younger sister, how could he not be sad? My son noticed something suspicious about this matter and secretly sent someone to investigate the cause of Junhua's death. He accidentally learned that the crown prince and his brother had secretly formed a clique outside the palace, hired a group of blacksmiths to forge weapons, and even bought armor from neighboring countries with the intention of usurping power. Long Yuan took out several stacked sales contracts from his prison uniform, with a prominent Kirin seal and the crown prince's name and signature. Father, you see, all the documents traded with neighboring countries are stamped with the crown prince's Kirin seal. My courtiers also felt compassion, so they secretly took the Kirin seal and handed it over to the Wei princess for protection, with the purpose of blocking the crown prince from continuing to trade with neighboring envoys and preventing the crown prince from secretly cultivating a stronger influence. Emperor Yan Qian took the sales contracts with seals, and with just one glance, he recognized the handwriting on Long Wei's book without a doubt. You're talking nonsense. You're clearly slandering. Is it slander? Father, please search for the documents and copies hidden in the crown prince's mansion. If something happens suddenly, I believe the crown prince won't have time to process those pieces of evidence. What I have said is not false, please let father take a look. Long Wei Shu was really angry, with a strong sense of wanting to tear down Long Yuan. You're a good Long Yuan. Not only did you elbow out, but you also bullied me on the head. When I take office, I'll kill you first. Suck. For an instant, the air condensed and everyone was shocked by the crown prince's words and spoke up. It seems that the person who wants to seek power and seize the throne is not the king of Wei, but the crown prince. Oh my goodness, if it weren't for the crown prince accidentally leaking his words, we might have been kept in his dark. The third prince is also too pitiful. Not only did he kill his younger sister with his hands and feet, but he almost lost his life. It's really despicable. Upon hearing this, the left prime minister was extremely helpless and even said that his daughter had married a future monarch. Unexpectedly, Long Wei Shu was simply an unsupported adu. Emperor Yan Qian only felt that he was filled with anger, especially when he saw Long Wei Shu's expression of anger and embarrassment. He was furious. Pop. Bastard, I haven't died yet. Is the throne something you can imagine? Long Wei Shu finally realized what he had said. He covered his numb cheeks and couldn't regain his senses for a long time. Emperor Yan Qian worked hard to calm his anger and looked down at the people below. However, this time, he clearly lost his previous confidence. There are some doubts about the case of Junhua. After I return to the palace to investigate and clarify the situation, I will give an explanation to the beloved ministers and the people on a certain day. His move today was very embarrassing, especially in front of so many people. Eunuch Li De saw this and asked in a low voice, Your Majesty, what should the king of Wei do? Take him back to the prison and wait for his release. Your Majesty, please stay. I have something unknown. Emperor Yan Qian did not conceal his disgust in his eyes. He never thought that this game was clearly aimed at Sui Chen, and how could it end up hitting his own face? What else is there? Sui Chen looked at Emperor Yan Qian and suddenly smiled lightly. The smile seemed to have seen through everything long ago. Has not my queen already proven that I am innocent? The emperor doesn't want people to let go of my ministers. Do you want my ministers to be sent back and beheaded on a certain day? Sui Chen shook the chain in his hand, with a smile still on his lips. The 100-year-old black iron, the emperor has intentions. Then he only heard a clang-clang sound, and the chain broke into several sections. Seeing this, everyone present breathed in one after another, with expressions of astonishment. This is a century-old dark iron. He, surprisingly, broke it with just a gentle pinch of his hand. Emperor Yan Qian suddenly felt that the iron chain worn in Sui Chen's hand was his own neck. Emperor Yan Qian's forehead veins burst with anger, but he tried his best to control his expression and tried to elicit a smile. Yi Chen, I'm sorry about this. Before Emperor Yan Qian could finish speaking, Sui Chen took the lead and said, "I believe that the emperor has organized various civil and military officials and the people here, in order to clear my name in front of the world. Such a righteous act of annihilating relatives has convinced me. This. You Sui Chen, you have said all the good things. If we don't release him now, it will only make the world feel that the emperor is biased towards his son, willing to let the king of Wei take the blame, and doing things that are hypocritical." But Emperor Yanqian didn't want to let him go like this. He could only blame Sui Chen for his excessive sharpness and higher achievements than his master. If he didn't poke his spirit, he might have to follow his surname in the future. "This matter has indeed wronged you. I will investigate it thoroughly when I return, and I will definitely give you a clean slate in the future." Sui Chen didn't plan to be fooled by Emperor Yanqian just like this. "Do you remember what you said on the day you sentenced me to death? Did I say anything?" The emperor said that the reason for sentencing my minister to death was because there is a mountain of hard evidence. Now, there is a mountain of hard evidence pointing to the crown prince. However, the emperor is now saying that there is some doubt in the matter. Not only will he not sentence the crown prince, but he will also imprison me, an innocent person. So, is the emperor afraid or unwilling? You. So tell me, what do you want? What I want is nothing more than innocence. The emperor is as powerful as the sky, and whether he is black or white is just a matter of your words. Why does the emperor appear particularly difficult when he comes to Wei Chen? The eagle eyes behind Sui Chen's gold and copper mask seemed plain, but Emperor Yanqian felt that his gaze was scorching hot, as if he could enter and burn him through a hole in the next second. How could Emperor Yanqian not know that Sui Chen was mocking him for reversing black and white, but he had wronged the other party first, and what could he do with him? I hereby declare that this matter has been slandered by malicious individuals. King Sui Chen of Wei is not guilty and will be released immediately. The crown prince is suspected of plotting rebellion and killing hands and feet, and will be imprisoned immediately, waiting for his release. And then there's no more then. This time it was Su Ruqing's turn not to give up and said, "Is that all?" Emperor Yan Qian only felt the veins on his forehead jump and said, "The king of Wei didn't say anything. What else do you want?" "Your Majesty, this white paper that has been splashed with ink may be restored to its original state." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Cousin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Cousin Emperor Yan Qian was completely unaware that he had fallen into Su Ruqing's trap. How can this white paper, which has been splashed with ink, be restored to its original state? So, the emperor must punish the villain who splashed ink on the king of Wei well. The wife and husband of the wife have suffered such great injustice, so we cannot just let it go. Yes, Princess Wei's words make sense. As if thinking of something, a hint of cunning flashed in Su Ruqing's eyes. Now that the crown prince has committed such a crime, it is probably impossible to continue to protect the crown prince's throne. Therefore, it is better for this Qilin seal to be kept by the empress on behalf of the emperor. The verbal acquittal is really unconvincing. If we don't show the enemy some color, it's true that the Wei prince's mansion is a vegetarian. Sure enough, Emperor Yanqian's face darkened, but before he could speak, Su Ruqing said, "This is to prevent the crown prince's subordinates from continuing to use the Qilin seal to do bad things, and also to share the emperor's worries. After the emperor disposes of the crown prince and completely exonerates our husband and wife, I will return the Qilin seal to you." Upon hearing this, the corners of Sui Chen's lips under her mask rose slightly upwards, indicating that this woman is really brave. However, he did not want to easily let go of those who had harmed him. "I know that my qualifications are dull and I cannot participate in major events in the court. This is also a kind gesture. I am willing to work with my subordinates to help the emperor solve his problems." What a troublemaker. Emperor Yanqian was extremely angry, but he couldn't lower his face in front of so many people and said, "So, then it's up to the king of Wei. Come, show off, and go back to the palace." When everyone saw that there was no more excitement, they gradually dispersed. As they watched the team gradually recede, Su Ruqing and Su Yian's faces were filled with the joy of victory. "Mother, how awesome!" Su Yian waved her small pink fist and bounced around Su Ruqing's side. He didn't dare to speak out about the scene just now. He didn't understand anything and wanted to say something, but he was afraid of involving his mother. Su Ruqing couldn't help but pick him up and suck hard on his small face, saying, "Honor is also great. Thanks to your encouragement and comfort to your mother, she was able to win in one fell swoop." Su Yian was so dumbfounded by the kiss that he stared blankly at Su Ruqing, his eyes full of astonishment, unable to recover for a moment. "Just now, my mother kissed him. My mother used to hate getting close to her the most, but today, she actually kissed him. Wow, I'm so happy. Mother, rest assured that Honor will be obedient in the future, practicing her handwriting diligently, and becoming a strong and upright man to protect her mother." Su Ruqing smiled contentedly and gave Xiao Naibaozi a hard kiss on the face, saying, "You're such a big girl." Xiao Naibaozi was even happier, laughing so hard that her eyes narrowed into a slit. "Gulyalu, Gulyalu." At this moment, the belly began to sing the Empty City Plan, and Xiao Naibaozi smiled awkwardly. "Are you hungry? All right, let's go home with father and mother will make you delicious food." "Okay." Sitting in the prepared carriage, Su Ruqing's ears occasionally heard the voices of the people's indignation. The imperial palace gate was a bit far from the Wei prince's mansion, and all three of them were a bit tired along the way. As soon as she thought about Su Ruqing kissing her just now, Su Yian couldn't help but boast, "Did you see me, old man? My mother kissed me just now, here, 2 bites." Su Yian raised 2 fingers, looking a little disheveled, and even extended her small face to Su Yichen to show him. Su Yichen had never seen her own son so happy before, happier than when he got anything he wanted in the past. Su Ruqing looked at Xiao Naibaozi's happy expression and felt very relieved in her heart. "If Honor likes it, my mother will kiss you every day in the future, okay? Okay. Your mother must keep her word. Okay, keep your word. No, we need to pull the hook to count. Okay, hang it with a hook, it won't change for 100 years." Such a warm scene made Su Yichen's eyes slightly moist, but at the same time, he silently looked at Su Ruqing in front of him. She seems to have changed a person. Is it an illusion? But if it's an illusion, why is this feeling so real? Previously, due to the crown prince, they had the name of husband and wife, but each had different dreams and shared the same bed. If it weren't for Honor having a complete childhood, he could even have ruthlessly killed Su Ruqing. But now, this woman who disgusted him to the extreme not only took the risk to save him, but also took good care of his child. Su Yian saw Su Yichen looking at Su Ruqing. He didn't know what Su Yichen was thinking in his heart, but thought that his old man was envious of him. "Old man, do you also envy me for having a mother's kiss? My mother said, from now on, you will only kiss me alone. You can't expect to get a mother's kiss." Su Yichen looked at the yellow-haired boy who was not yet as tall as himself and said calmly, "I'm not rare." Xiao Naibaozi made a milky, cut sound, thinking to himself that the old man must be jealous, but he refused to admit it. Su Yichen leaned against the car wall, not knowing what she was thinking. After Su Yian got into the car, she crawled into Su Ruqing's arms and soon began to feel drowsy. After Su Yian fell asleep in Su Ruqing's arms, Su Yichen spoke up and asked, "Why did you save this king?" Su Ruqing, who was drowsy, suddenly listened to Su Yichen's question and lost all sleep in an instant. She asked in response, "What does the prince think? Have you discovered your conscience? If the prince thinks so, I have no objection." Su Yichen. Su Yichen stopped questioning and continued to close her eyes to rest her mind. Quickly, the 3 of them arrived at the gate of the royal palace, followed by the emperor's decree. According to the imperial edict of the heavenly undertaking emperor, the king of Wei was wrongly imprisoned and his honor and power will be restored from today on. I hereby bestow upon him 200-year-old ginseng plants and a pair of deer antlers. With great consideration, it was said that Sui Chen was not guilty and he also gave a consolation gift. Sui Chen sat in a wheelchair and suddenly chuckled softly, his deep and slightly hoarse voice shaking out from his chest. Thank you, Lord Longen. As soon as he entered the mansion, a woman wearing a water-pink lotus leaf flowing fairy skirt walked towards him. Before anyone knew her, they heard her voice and said, Cousin Chen, you have come back. You didn't know that during these days when you were not here, you have worried my aunt and me a lot. Who are you? Sui Chen felt a wave of disgust when she saw the woman dressed so beautifully. Cousin Chen, did you forget that we met at Linjiazhuang that day? Linjiazhuang. That was a long, long time ago, and Sui Chen had little impression of it. At this moment, Aunt Zhang walked out of the main hall and enthusiastically introduced herself. Your cousin Chen is busy with official duties and daily affairs, so it's normal not to remember you. Chen this is the daughter of my mother's sister, named Lin Yenner. End of this chapter.